So China is becoming more and more interested in launching their own stablecoin, despite the fact that the country actually bans Bitcoin, cryptos, and stablecoins included. So why this sudden interest? So let's dive right in. So first off, it's important to understand the actual context on liquidity and how the RMB, so the Chinese yuan, actually works within China. So there are two systems. There is the domestic system, or we call the mainland RMB, which is very controlled and under strict capital controls by the PBOC. And right now, China is trying to create a lot of liquidity. So we discussed about that on our report number 22. So the PBOC just try to push credit to fight deflation. So it's all about consumption and compensate for the real estate crisis that has recently happened. And at the same time, they are very export driven. So this all depends on Hong Kong as a hub to communicate with everybody else. So there's a whole situation going on where they need to send goods all over the place, and tariffs are not making their lives any easier. So everything, all that activity is regulated through Hong Kong. So it's like a container, and then you have a valve that allows China to interact with the dollar system, which we call the euro dollar system. So the dollars outside of the United States that allow China to be part of the international trade. So the thing is, they are seeing what is happening in the U.S., especially if we see here this article where the U.S. just released a stablecoin framework and regulation through the Genius Act, and now they're kind of feeling the FOMO. So Beijing officials, according to the article, warmed to the idea of a yuan stablecoin driven by FOMO, by the fear of missing out. The idea here is to maintain that kind of control, but also allow for an international tool based on yuan, very regulated, not giving up control, but at the same time being liquid enough for private or other entities to issue their own yuan-backed stablecoins for instant settlements 24/7 all over the world. It's the same idea of US dollar stablecoins, but now for China. But China is, of course, it works a little different than we might think, because you really have that dual system, the onshore versus the offshore. How do you actually provide that liquidity to everybody else at the same time as having strict capital controls? And another point that is pretty interesting as well is the fact that Hong Kong has another currency, which is pegged to the dollar. So it's kind of another proxy war where we do see a lot of that tension. So you see the tension on commerce, you see the tension on the exchange rate, the dependency on the dollar system. So this is all going on that de-dollarization theme and de-globalization that is currently happening. So this is going to be very interesting to see as well. But what can you do about it? How can you invest, right, based on those matters? So this is why China is a crucial part of our report. So if you want to follow along to understand what changes you can do on your portfolio, you can definitely follow our report 22 as well. The links are on the description below. So if we see what happens to the USD-CNY, so the Chinese yuan, it has been quite under control lately because of the dollar weakness from lately. So the DXY went down. It also means that it went down towards the Chinese yuan as well. So it was coming up for a while, so 720, but then just got rejected after the bad news on Friday in the United States. So let's see if they're it's still under a certain range. They don't want it to go over 730, but also not too low. So they need to keep it as that dual system goes on. We want to make sure that imports don't get out of control, but at the same time, we want to make sure that RMB is available to everybody, as if they're trying to create their own global reserve system. But the yuan is a dollar derivative, so you can only know how much yuan is worth based on the dollar. This is why it's such an intrinsic system that people fail to understand, and which is pretty hard to grasp. So the idea as well is to allow to regions like the Hainan trade free trade zone, like the island here in the south, to also issue their own stablecoins, for example, or other entities as well. But many officials are for it, many officials are against it. They don't really know what kind of implications we're currently going to have once that is launched. So it's still up to debate. And also mentioning the fact that China had expanded their activities for a gold exchange in Hong Kong to allow for international buyers of gold to use the RMB as a currency and provide some kind of safety for that international adoption, to making sure that if I want to get rid of my RMB, I can just trade it directly from gold for gold, almost as a gold certificate, so to speak. It's not really a gold standard, but it's also a step that they had. So this is going to be very interesting to see how they deal with that. But if for sure, it's one of the plans that they actually want to consider pursuing in order to internationalize the yuan. However, for sure, the U.S. market, the U.S. dollar market, it has a much bigger pool, much deeper. It's the whole monetary system per se, and China participates on it as well. And having a lot of reserves in dollars also makes things complicated. So let's see how that develops, and see you in the next video.